Chapter 1. The Ship Comes Home. On the 24th of February, 1815, the ship Pharaoh came into Marseille. A man on the shore jumped into a boat and went out to the ship. A young man, about 20 years old, looked over the side of the ship. He seemed to be the captain. He was the type of man who meets danger without fear. "Oh, is it you, Dantes?" cried the man in the boat. "What has happened?" "A very sad thing, Mr. Morel," replied the young man. "When our ship was near Civitavecchia, we lost our brave Captain Leclerc." He turned to his men and gave a quick order. Then he turned again to Morel. The Pharaoh was Morel's ship, and Edmond Dantes was first officer. "We will all die one day, Edmond," said Morel. "The goods?" "They are safe, Mr. Morel. Now, come on board. Here is Danglars. He does all the buying and selling. I must look after my ship." Morel climbed quickly onto the ship and met Danglars. Danglars was about 25 years old. Nobody on the Pharaoh liked him. "Well, Mr. Morel," said Danglars, "you heard about the sad death of Captain Leclerc." "Yes. He was a brave and good man." "And a good seaman. He was old and wise. A good ship's captain for Morel and Son," replied Danglars. "A young man can be a good captain too," Morel said. "Look at our friend Edmond. He works well." "Yes," Danglars. He looked at Dantes. He did not like him. "Yes, he is young, and he is very sure of himself. When the captain died, we had to take orders from him, and as a result we lost a day and a half at the island of Elba. We needed to come straight to Marseille." "He has to take the captain's place," said Morel. "He is the first officer. But it was wrong to stop at Elba." "Was the ship unsafe? Did you need to work on it?" "There was nothing wrong with the ship. We stopped at Elba and went on shore. It was a holiday, not work." "Dantes," the ship owner called. "Come here, please." "In a minute, Mr. Morel," answered Dantes. He gave an order to his men. When the ship was safely tied up, Dantes came towards Morel. "The ship is now ready," he said. "Can I help you, sir?" Danglars took a few steps back. "Why did you stop at the island of Elba?" asked Morel. "I don't know, Mr. Morel. It was Captain Leclerc's last order. He gave me a letter for Marshal Bertrand." Morel took Dantes' arm and pulled him close. "And how is Napoleon?" he said quietly. "He seemed very well." "You spoke to him?" "No." "He spoke to me," said Dantes. "He asked, 'When did you leave Marseille? What goods are on board?' He was very interested. Perhaps he wanted to buy the ship." "I am only the first officer," I said. "The ship belongs to Morel and Son." "Ah," he said, "I know them. The Morels have owned ships for many years. But there was a Morel who was a soldier. He fought with me at Valence." "True," cried Morel happily. "That was Policar Morel, my uncle. He was a great soldier, a captain. Dantes, my uncle, will be very happy about Napoleon. It will bring fire into the old soldier's eyes. You were right to stop at Elba, Dantes." But don't tell people about the letter for Marshal Bertrand, and about Napoleon. You will get into trouble." "Why?" asked Dantes. "I don't know what was in the letter. Napoleon only asked me simple questions. Anyone can answer questions like those." "My dear Dantes," said the owner, "are you now free?" "Yes, Mr. Morel," Dantes replied. "Can you come and have dinner with me?" "Thank you, Mr. Morel, but I must visit my father first." "Visit your father, and then come to my house." "Thank you again, Mr. Morel, but there is another person that I must see." "True, Dantes, I forgot. Of course, the beautiful Mercedes. She came to see me 3 times. She wanted news about the Pharaoh." "She has promised to marry me," the young seaman said. "My dear Edmund," said the owner, "that is very good news. Now, hurry away to see your father." "Thank you, Mr. Morel. I have a question. Can I leave the ship for 14 days? "To get married?" Morel asked. "Yes, first, and then I want to go to Paris." "Yes, of course, Dantes. But come back again in 1 month. The Pharaoh can't sail without her captain." "Without her captain?" cried Dantes. His eyes were bright, and he was very happy. "Are you really going to make me captain of the Pharaoh? Oh, Mr. Morel, I thank you for my father and for Mercedes." "Good, Edmund. Go to your father. Go and see Mercedes, and then come to see me." "Shall I take you to the shore with me?" Dantes asked. "No, thank you. I'll stay and do some work with Danglars." "Were you pleased with him on this journey?" "Do you mean, is Danglars a good friend?" "No, we aren't friends. We disagreed one day near the island of Monte Cristo, and he doesn't like me. But he works well. I can say nothing against him." The ship owner watched Dantes until he reached the shore. Danglars stood on the ship behind Morel. He also watched the young man as he went away. But he did not look kindly at Dantes. Chapter 2. Father and Son. Dantes turned into a narrow street and went into a small house. "My dear Edmund," cried his father, "my boy, my son, you are here in Marseille. Tell me all your news." "I have some sad news. The good Captain Leclerc is dead. But I am now captain of the Pharaoh. Just think, I am only 20 years old and the captain of a great ship. I will earn good money. I can buy you a new house." "What is the matter, father? Aren't you well?" "It is nothing," his father said. "You need food and a drink. Where will I find food and drink for you?" "There is nothing in the house," answered the old man. "But I don't need anything, because you are here. When I left 3 months ago, I gave you plenty of money," Dantes said. "Yes, but I paid some money back to our friend Caderousse. He asked me for it." "But you gave Caderousse more than half of the money. Why did you do that? Here, father, take this and send for some food." Edmund put all his money on the table. "No, no," said the old man. "I don't need all that money." "But here comes Caderousse. He knows that you are home. He wants to welcome you." "Hello. You have returned, Edmund," Caderousse said. "Yes, neighbour," replied Dantès. He tried to hide his real feelings. "I am ready to help you in any way." "You are rich now," said Caderousse, looking hungrily at the money on the table. "Oh, that," said Dantès, "that is my father's money. But of course you are our neighbour. If you want money, we will lend it to you." "Thank you, but I don't need anything. I met my friend Danglars, so I heard that you were here. I wanted to see you." "Good Caderousse," said the old man. "He is a great friend to us." There was an ugly look on Caderousse's face. "Well, Morrel is pleased with you," he said. "Are you hoping to be the next captain of the Pharaoh?" "Yes, I believe that I will be the next captain. But, dear father, I must leave you. Now I must visit another person in the town." "Go, my dear boy, and God protect your wife." "His wife?" said Caderousse. "She isn't his wife yet. Mercédès is a fine girl, and fine girls have plenty of young men. But you will be captain of the Pharaoh, so—" "My opinion of women, and of Mercédès, is better than yours," Dantès said. "I know that she will always love me." Edmund left the house, and Caderousse joined Danglars. The seaman was waiting for him at the corner. "He isn't captain yet," said Danglars quietly. "We can stop him. Let's go. We will stop at La Réserve and drink a glass of wine there." "Right then," Caderousse said. "But you must pay for the drink." Chapter 3. Mercédès. Danglars and Caderousse sat at a table under a tree. In a house about 100 meters away, a young girl was at the window. Her hair was as black as night, and her eyes were as dark and wonderful as the shadow of a forest. "Mercédès!" a voice shouted happily outside the house. "Mercédès!" "Ah!" cried the girl, and she ran to the door and opened it. "Here, Edmund, here I am." Edmund took Mercédès in his arms. The golden sunshine of Marseille shone on them. They were together, the only two people in the world. Edmund and Mercédès walked past La Réserve. Caderousse and Danglars were still there. "Hey, Edmund!" cried Caderousse. He got up from his seat. "Are you too proud to speak to your friends?" "No, my dear man," Dantès replied. "I am not proud, but I am happy. I was thinking about Mercédès." "When is the wedding?" asked Danglars. "Soon. Tomorrow or the next day, here at La Réserve. We hope that you and Caderousse will be there." "Tomorrow or the next day. You are in a hurry, Captain," said Danglars. "I am not a captain yet, Danglars," said Dantès. "But yes, we are in a hurry, because I must go to Paris." "To Paris? Do you have business there?" "It is not my business. Captain Leclerc asked me to finish some work for him." Yes, I understand," said Danglars. And he added, speaking to himself, "To Paris. He is taking Marshal Bertrand's letter there. Ah, I have an idea. Dantès, my friend, you are not captain of the Pharaoh yet." He turned towards Edmund. "A good journey," he cried. "Thank you, my friend," said Edmund, and the two lovers continued on their happy path. "Boy," shouted Danglars, "bring me a pen and paper." "It is a strange thought," said Caderousse. "You can kill a man with a knife, but you can also kill him with that pen." "I will tell you what I am going to do," said Danglars. "Dantès has just returned from a journey. He stopped at the island of Elba. We are going to send a letter to an officer of the government. We will write that Dantès is working for Napoleon. He wants to bring Napoleon back as ruler of France." Danglars wrote, using his left hand. "A friend of the king has information for the king's officers. Edmond Dantès of the ship Pharaoh brought a letter from Elba to the followers of Napoleon in Paris. You will find the letter in his coat, or at his father's house, or in his room on the ship." He put the letter in an envelope and wrote a name on it, Villefort. "So, I have done it," Danglars said. "Yes, you have done it," said Caderousse. "But it is a dirty piece of work." He put out his hand to take the letter. The cooks at La Réserve prepared a wonderful meal for the wedding. Many of the men from the Pharaoh were there, and other friends of Dantès. "Shall we start?" asked the sweet, silvery voice of Mercédès. "We must go to the church." Everyone in the party stood up and began to form a line. Suddenly there was a loud noise. A man knocked on the door and shouted, "Open this door, in the name of the law!" An officer came in. There were 4 soldiers with him. "Where is Edmond Dantès?" "That is my name," said Edmund. "Why?" "I can't tell you. Someone will tell you the reason later." "Don't be afraid, my good friend," said Dantès. "They are making a mistake. That is all, I'm sure." Dantès went into the courtyard with the soldiers. "God go with you, my dearest," cried Mercédès. "And with you, sweet Mercédès. We shall soon meet again." Chapter 4. The Judge. Villefort, the judge, took a paper from one of the men. He said, "Bring in the prisoner." Dantès came into the room. "Who and what are you?" Villefort asked. "My name is Edmond Dantès," the young man replied. "I am an officer of the Pharaoh, one of Morel's ships." "Your age?" 20. "Where were you when the soldiers came?" "I was at my wedding." Dante's voice was full of tears. Earlier in the day he was so happy, and now... It is sad that this man missed his wedding, thought Villefort. But he continued, "Do you work for Napoleon?" "I wanted to join one of his ships, but he lost power." "People think that you are a dangerous man. They say you want to bring Napoleon back to power." "Me? Dangerous? I am only 20. I don't know about things like power. I love my father, I love Morel, and most of all, I love Mercédès. That is all that I can tell you. Have you any enemies? Enemies? Said Dantes. Only important men have enemies. I am not important. True, you are only 20, Villefort said. But you will soon be captain of a ship. You are marrying a pretty girl. Does someone hate you because you are so lucky? Perhaps. I don't know. You know men better than I do. I received this letter. Do you know the writing? Dantes read it. A cloud of sadness passed over his face. No, I don't know the writing. But the writer of this letter is a real enemy. Now, said the judge, answer me. Are the words in this letter true? No, Dantes replied. I will tell you the facts. Captain Leclerc became ill soon after we left Naples. On the third day, he was very ill. He called to me and said, "Promise me something. It is very important." I promised. After my death, you will become captain. Go to Elba and ask for Marshal Bertrand. Give him this letter, and he will give you another letter. He will tell you where to take it. That is what Captain Leclerc said. And what did you do then? The judge asked. I agreed. Leclerc was dying. On a ship, the last request of an officer is an order. I reached Elba, and I went on shore alone. I gave the letter to Marshal Bertrand. He gave me a letter to take to a person in Paris. I came here, visited Mercedes, and prepared for my wedding. I am going to Paris tomorrow. Ah, said Villefort. Perhaps you were unwise, but you followed the last orders of your captain. Give me the letter that you brought from Elba. Promise to see me again if I call you. You can go back to your friends now. I am free, then? Said Dantes happily. Yes, but first give me the letter. You have it already. The soldiers took it with some other letters. They are on the table. Stop, said Villefort as Dantes took his hat. Whose name and address are on the letter? Noirtier, Heron Road, Paris. Villefort's face went white, and he looked afraid. Noirtier, he said in a weak voice. Noirtier? Yes. Do you know him? No, replied Villefort. I am a true follower of the king. I don't know men who want to destroy him. Noirtier wants to destroy the king? Dantes began to feel afraid. I told you. I didn't read the letter. I don't know what it says. Yes, but you saw the name on the envelope. Of course I read the name. I had to give it to Noirtier. Did you show this letter to anyone? Asked Villefort. No, I didn't show it to anyone, I promise you. Dantes looked at Villefort's face and was afraid. Villefort read the letter. Then he covered his face with his hands. Oh, the judge thought. Does he know what is in this letter? Does he know my real name? Does he know that Noirtier is my father? If he knows this, then I am in danger. He looked closely at Dantes. Then he said, "You cannot leave now. You must stay here for some time. I will try to make your stay as short as possible. The only thing against you is this letter." He took the letter from the table and went to the fire. "Look, I am burning it." "Oh," cried Dantes, "you are very kind." "Listen," said Villefort. "You know that I will help you. You will stay here until this evening. Don't answer any questions. Don't say a word about this letter. And don't say the name of Noirtier." "I promise." Villefort called out, and a soldier came into the room. "Follow this soldier," Villefort told Dantes. The door closed, and Villefort fell into a chair. "Oh, my father, if people hear about this letter, it will be the end for me. I must make sure that nobody knows about it." Chapter 5. The Prison. The soldier took Dantes to a small room. Then, at about 10 o'clock, an officer and 4 soldiers took him through the streets to the shore. They put Dantes in a boat. Then they watched him as the boat moved away. "What is happening?" Edmund thought wildly. "The judge was kind to me. He told me not to be afraid. He only told me not to say the name Noirtier. And he destroyed the letter in front of me." Dantes looked into the darkness. They were going out to sea. They were sailing away from everything that he loved. He turned to the nearest soldier. "Friend," he said, "please tell me where we are going. I am Edmond Dantes, a seaman, and a man who loves God and the king. Tell me where we are going." "You were born in Marseille, and you are a seaman, but you don't know where you are going? Look!" Dantes stood up and looked in front of the boat. 100 meters away he saw the black and frightening shape of the rock where the Chateau d'If stands. The prison was about 300 years old. People tell many strange stories about this place, Dantes thought. Prisoners go there and never return. Is this the end of all hope? "I am not going to be a prisoner there," cried Dantes. "Only important prisoners, enemies of the king, go there. Mr. Villefort promised me—" "Mr. Villefort told us to take you to the Chateau d'If." The boat reached the shore. A soldier jumped out, took Dantes' arms, and pushed him up some steps. He passed through a door, and the door closed behind him. He was in a courtyard with high walls on all sides. He heard the feet of soldiers walking around outside. "Where is the prisoner?" a voice said. "Follow me." Dantes followed. The man took him to a room which was almost under the ground. "This is your room for tonight," the man said. "It is late and the governor is asleep. Tomorrow, perhaps, he will send you to another place. There is bread and water and some dry grass to sleep on. Good night." The man left quickly and took away his lamp. Dantes was alone in the darkness and the silence. At the first light of day, the guard returned. Dantes was standing in the same place, just inside the door. The man touched Dantes on the arm and asked, "Haven't you slept?" "I don't know," Dantes answered. The guard looked at him. "Are you hungry?" "I don't know." "Do you want anything?" "I want to see the governor." The guard gave a short laugh and left the room. The door closed. Dantes threw himself on the floor. "What is happening?" he cried. "Why am I in this place?" The day passed. Dantes did not eat. He walked round and round the small room. The next morning the guard came back again. "Prisoner," he said, "are you feeling better today?" Dantes did not answer. "Be brave, man." "Can I get you anything?" the guard asked. "I want to see the governor." "That is not possible," the guard said. "What can I do then?" Dantes asked. "You can have better food, if you pay for it, and books, and you can walk around in the courtyard." "I don't want books. This food is all right. And I don't want to walk around. I want to see the governor." "You can't. Don't ask to see him. I will always say no. You will go crazy." "You think so?" "I know it. There is a man in this prison. He was in this room before you. If you help me, I will give you a lot of treasure," he told the governor. "He was put in a room underground 2 years ago." "Listen, I am not crazy," Dantes said, "and I must see the governor." "Oh ho!" cried the guard, stepping back. "You are going crazy. We will have trouble with you. But there are plenty of places underground." He went out. A few minutes later he returned with 4 soldiers. "The governor has sent orders," he said. He turned to the soldiers. "This prisoner is crazy. Put him underground." The soldiers took Dantes' arms. He went quietly. They walked down 15 steps. Then the soldiers opened the door of a room and threw Dantes inside. The door closed, and Dantes walked around. He held his hands out until he touched the wall. Then he sat down in a corner. It was very dark, and he could see nothing. "The guard is right," he thought. "This place will make me completely crazy." Chapter 6. Underground. Time passed. The chief officer of prisons visited the prisoners' rooms. "Is the food good?" he asked the prisoners. "Do you want anything?" "The food is very bad, and we want to be free," they all replied. The officer laughed and turned to the governor. "Why do we come here? We always hear the same thing. The food is bad, I have done nothing wrong, I want to be free." "Are there any other prisoners?" "Yes, there are the crazy prisoners. We keep them underground. They are a danger to other people." "Let's visit them. I must see them all." 2 soldiers took the officer down the steps. The air smelled bad. The darkness was full of the smell of death. "Oh," cried the officer, "who can live here?" "Very bad men. We must watch them very carefully." This was the officer's first visit. "Prisoner number 34. Let's visit this one first," he said. Dantes was sitting in the corner of his room. He looked up and saw the stranger with 2 soldiers. "This is an important officer," he thought. He jumped up to meet him, but the soldiers pushed him back. "The officer thinks that I am crazy," Dantes thought. He looked at the officer. He tried to make his voice quiet and calm. "I only want to know what is going to happen to me. Why am I here? Give me your permission to see a judge." "Perhaps," said the chief officer. Then, turning to the governor, he said, "Show me your books. What is this man's crime?" "I know that you can't free me," said Dantes, "but tell me, please, that there is hope." "I can't tell you that. I can only promise to ask about the matter. Who gave orders for you to come to the prison?" "Mr. Villefort." "Does he have a reason to be your enemy?" "No. He was very kind to me," Dantes said. "Then I can believe what he writes about you in the prison's book?" "Yes." The officer left the room and closed the door. But he left something in the room. Hope. The officer kept his promise to Dantes. He looked in the prison book and found Edmond Dantes, a dangerous man. He helped Napoleon return from Elba. Watch him carefully. "I can't help this prisoner," the chief officer thought. He wrote in the book, "Do nothing." Chapter 7. Number 27. Days and weeks passed. Dantes began to think that the officer's visit was only a dream. Suddenly, one evening at about 9 o'clock, Edmund heard a sound in the wall next to his bed. He listened. Perhaps this is only a dream too, he thought. But he heard the sound again. He heard something fall, and then silence. Some hours later, he heard the noise again, nearer and more clearly. Edmund listened. I know what that sound is, he thought. A prisoner is trying to escape. Edmund wanted to help. He moved his bed. Then he looked round the room for a sharp tool. The only things in the room were a bed, a chair, a table, and a water pot. I will break the water pot and use one of the sharp pieces, he thought. He threw the pot on the floor, and it broke into pieces. He hid 2 or 3 pointed bits in his bed. The next morning the guard came into the room. The water pot fell from my hands when I was drinking, Dantes said. The man was angry with him for his carelessness, but he brought another pot. He did not take away the broken pieces of the old one. Dantes started to work. The stone wall was old and soft, and it broke into small pieces easily. At last he pulled a stone out of the wall. It left a hole 1/2 meter wide. He carefully carried all the small pieces of stone into the corners of the room and covered them with earth. He put back the big stone and placed his bed in front of the hole. Later the guard came with his evening meal. When the man left the room, Dantes started to work again. He worked all night, making a deep hole in the wall. Then he stopped. "What is this?" he cried. "I can't cut through it or move it." It was a great piece of wood. Dantes could not make the hole deeper. "Oh, my God, he cried. "I want to die. I have lost all hope." "Who is the man who can talk at the same time about God and about hopelessness?" said a voice under the earth. Edmund got up on his knees. "Ah," he said, "a voice, the voice of a man. In the name of God, speak again." "Who are you?" said the voice. "An unhappy prisoner." "Why are you in prison?" "I did nothing wrong," Dantes replied. "They say that I tried to help Napoleon. He wanted to return to France." "To return to France? Where is he now, then?" "They sent him to the island of Elba in 1814. Don't you know that? When did you come here?" "In 1811. 4 years before me." "Don't do any more work," said the voice. "Just tell me, how high up are you?" "At the same height as the floor of my room," Dantes said. "What is behind the door of your room?" "A narrow room, and then the courtyard." "Oh, that is bad," the voice said. "My plan is wrong. I wanted to break through to the outside wall of the prison. And then? And then throw myself into the sea and swim to one of the islands near here. Cover the opening of the hole in the wall. Do it carefully. Stop working on the hole. Wait until you hear from me again." "Tell me who you are," cried Edmund. I am number 27. "Why don't you tell me your name?" Edmund heard a quiet laugh. "Oh," he cried, "please, please don't leave me alone. I promise that I won't say a word to the guards." "I will talk to you again," said the voice, "tomorrow." Edmund closed the opening in the wall, carefully hid the bits of stone, and put his bed back in its place. The next morning, when he moved his bed away from the wall, he heard a sound. He got down on his knees. "Is it you?" he said. "I am here." Soon after that, part of the floor of Dante's room fell away. Stones and earth fell down into the opening. Then, at the bottom of the hole, Dante saw the arms and head of a man. The man climbed up into the room. Dantes reached his hands out to his new friend. He was a small man, and his hair was white. His eyes were dark, and he had a long beard. He was not strong. "You seem very happy to see me," he said to Dantes. "Your happiness touches my heart." But Dantes knew that the man was very sad. "You worked hard to escape," he said, "but you haven't reached the outside of the prison. This is just another room. But there are 3 other sides to the room. Do you know what is outside those walls? One wall is built against the rock. One is against the lower part of the governor's house. If we get out there, the guards will catch us. And this side faces where?" They looked at the 3rd side of the room. There was a small window high up in the wall, with 3 strong bars across it. The man pulled the table across the room and put it under the window. "Climb on the table," he said to Dantes. "Put your back against the wall and join your hands in front of your body." Then prisoner number 27 jumped up onto the table, and from there onto Dante's hands, and from there onto Dante's shoulders. He put his head through the top bars of the window, then pulled his head back quickly. Finally he said, "I thought so." He got down quickly and easily. "He moves as quickly as a young man," Dantes thought. "This side of your room," said number 27, "faces an open pathway. A soldier guards it day and night. It is not possible to escape through any of these walls." Dantes looked at the man. "You really want to escape," he thought, "and now you know that you can't. So why are you so calm?" Then he said, "Tell me, please, who are you?" "My name is Faria," the other man replied. "I came to the Château d'If in the year 1811. Before that, I was in the prison of Fenestrelle for 3 years. "But why are you here?" "As you know, there are a number of small countries in Italy. Each country has a ruler. I wanted to make Italy one great country under one great king. My chosen king tried to destroy me, and now Italy will never be one country. Napoleon tried to make it one country, but he did not complete his work. Poor Italy." The old man's voice was very sad. "Can I see your secret path behind the wall?" Dantes asked. "Follow me," said Faria, and he went into the deep hole in the wall. Dantes followed. Chapter 8. Faria's Room. The 2 friends passed easily along the underground path. Faria pulled up a stone in the floor, and they climbed into his room. Dantes looked around. "There is one thing that I still don't understand," he said. "How do you do so much work?" "I work all night." "At night? Do you have cat's eyes? Can you see in the dark?" "No, of course not. But God has given man a mind. With it we can make what we need. I made a lamp for myself. I get the oil from my food, and it burns very well." They sat and talked. Faria's words were clever and wise. Sometimes Dantes could not understand them. "You are very wise. Will you teach me?" Dantes asked. "I don't want you to get tired of me. A clever person doesn't want to talk to a person who knows nothing. Teach me, and then the hours will pass more quickly for you." Dantes learned new ideas from Faria very quickly and easily. He learned about the history of the world and the English language and many other things. Time passed. Dantes was much happier, but Faria's health was not good. One day Faria was in Edmund's room. Edmund was working on the secret path between their rooms. Suddenly Edmund heard Faria cry out in pain. He hurried to him and found him in the middle of the room. His face was as white as death. "What is the matter?" cried Dantes. "Quick," replied Faria. "Listen to me." Dantes looked at Faria's face and was afraid. Faria's eyes were dark, and there were deep blue circles round them. His skin was very pale. "Listen," said Faria. "I have a terrible illness. I was ill before I came to the prison. Help me back to my room. Take out one of the feet which hold up my bed. There is a small bottle of red liquid in the hole." Dantes acted quickly. He pulled the old man down into the underground path and took him back to his room. Then he helped Faria onto the bed. "Thank you," the poor man said. He was very cold now. "Now I must tell you about this illness. When it reaches its worst point, and not before, I pour a little of the liquid into my mouth." He stopped talking. The frightening greyness of death passed over his face. Dantes waited. Then he thought, "My friend is nearly dead." He took Faria's knife, broke open the bottle, and poured a little of the liquid into Faria's mouth. And he waited again. "Will my friend die?" he cried. 1 hour passed, and there was no change. Then, at last, a little colour came into Faria's face. The wide open eyes showed some life. Faria could not speak, but he pointed to the door. Dantes listened and heard the steps of the guard. "He mustn't find me here," he thought. The young man ran to the opening of the underground path and hurried to his room. Just after he reached it, the guard came in with food. He saw his prisoner sitting, as usual, on the side of his bed. After the guard left, Dantes hurried back to Faria's room. He lifted up the stone and was soon next to the sick man's bed. Faria was a little better, but he was still very weak. "Don't lose hope," said Dantes. "You will soon be strong again." He sat down on the bed next to Faria and held the old man's cold hands. "No," said Faria. "My first illness lasted for only half an hour. When it ended, I got up from my bed without help. Now I can't move my right arm or leg, and there is a pain in my head. Next time, the illness will kill me."